Hello, everybody, and welcome to Irish Hypnotherapy Conference 2025 Meet the Speaker Series. And today we are talking to Rosie Callaghan. Rosie, how are you?
I'm good, Sean. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. It's good to see you. It's been a while. Probably last Christmas, I think I probably saw yours, or last conference, actually, the
Yeah, the
last conference in
conference.
April. Yeah.
April.
Um, you are going to be speaking at the conference on the topic of regression, which
hmm
is, but for those of you who don't know Rosie, do you want to just give a little bit of background as to who you are, how you got into hypnotherapy, and what your primary fields are that you obviously regression is one of them, but it's only one.
Okay, yeah. So I am from Donegal. I'm from Killybegs. And before I found hypnotherapy, I was teaching music. So I was teaching in a girls' school here in South Dublin and also teaching piano and music, singing. And I did that before I had the kids. And what got me into hypnotherapy was I have to whisper this in case anyone hears me. Quit smoking session, and there's a child in the house. So that was basically 13 years ago, and I was only married about a year at that stage, and it got to a stage like he always hated the cigarettes, and I loved them, and got to the stage where I was preferring going out with my friends, you know, thinking, ah, sure, I'll have no hassle. But a year in, I thought, this is not a good start to a marriage. I thought, I need to, and it's not until, like, you can't give them up for someone else. If I
No,
was
you
giving
got
them
to do
up
it for
for someone
yourself.
else, I would have given them up 5 years before that when I'd met him. But you get to the stage where you really just feel like the scum of the earth. Like I know as a smoker, I can say it because I felt it. And when you get to that stage, that's when it works. So I went for a 2 hour session in Blackrock with a hypnotherapist there and walked out of there. I never wanted another cigarette in my life. And that's 13 years ago. And I remember at the time going, what just happened? Like it felt like friends would ask me, like, how did you do it? And I said, it's like somebody either turned off a switch or turned on a switch. I don't know, but they definitely flicked a switch upstairs. And that was obviously the resetting I know now as a hypnotist, the resetting or reprogramming of your subconscious mind. So I changed the attitude around the cigarettes and saw the damage they were doing. So I
Mhm.
no longer wanted them. So I remember thinking, right, that's like magic. So after like maybe another couple of years, actually I was planning to have my daughter, and I thought I was going to have a home birth, but she went 14 days or 14 days over, so that never happened. But we'll leave that for another day, right? But I was planning on it, so I'm there the whole way up, like to the 2 weeks over, going, I'm going to breathe this baby out. And even though medicine had to intervene, obviously for safety reasons, but my head was programmed that I was literally going to, there's nothing to fear. Like
So
it was
you
a
and had you done that yourself, or did you go
no.
to?
I
Yeah.
went to him every 2 weeks during my pregnancy, and I come out of there going, I can't wait. Like, but then for the second one, then I'd been through, the real thing. But for the second one, then actually, the hypnotist that I had gone to unfortunately had passed away. I reached out to him after my second was born and realized like he had been ill, and it was like my lifeline was gone. My God, what am I going to do? So I start going on Google and came across the institute, the
Mhm.
ICHI with Carl Anthony, and there was an induction weekend. So I said, right, I'll go. And I brought along a psychology student with me. She was in first year at the time. And from that moment, John, everything that he was saying, pennies were dropping. It's like
All right.
I started to understand my mind. Never knew what, like, we don't get a manual. And
No, and that's
depends
one
on
of
how
the
you're
things, isn't it?
programmed,
Yeah.
and to be fair, like, I mean, I've a lovely family. Doesn't matter. It's your perception growing up. I was the youngest of five as well. So like unfairness and justice might be nobody's fault, but that's going to be there no matter
Yeah.
where you fall in the family. So yeah, so fast forwarding a bit then, I went to that weekend, fell in love with it, and studied with the institute then.
Mm.
And after that, had the clinic here and still have Irish Hypnosis Cabinteely. Then I went to Canada and spent 2 years over there and opened Ontario Hypnosis, about an hour outside Toronto. and then came back. And before I came back in January 2020, I started doing the online hypnosim classes for the weight loss clinic. And people kind of they laugh at me and say, "It's where you knew it was coming, like January 2020, just
Yeah, absolutely. I
before
was just thinking just before that
the timing
that
of it."
time
Yeah,
that we're all now don't want to talk about.
yeah, we're not even going to go there, John. We're over. It's past. Over.
Absolutely.
So basically that there was only four in that first class, but it was great. Like the results from and the reason I did it was there was such a backlog for people looking for weight loss. And I figured, you know what, there's a lot of the same stuff going in. So I thought, why not bring them together? And then it freed me up then to do the one-to-one anxiety or the quit smoking, because that needs to be more one-to-one.
Hmm.
So that was why I initially did it. And then obviously people needed it, and that's still going nearly 5 years later.
That's brilliant.
And yeah, so that's
And is
that's
that so in your clinic, is it a combination of everything that you do?
yeah,
So weight loss is part of it, but it's not all of it.
exactly. Yeah. So the weight loss clinic is obviously weight loss, but someone comes in for one-to-one. Very rarely we're talking about what they're eating. Like you
Right.
might, once you've done the emotional clean out, if at that point they still want me to do one-to-one for weight loss, I will. But a lot of the time, once the emotional stuff's been removed, the classes is a good transition for them to go in. And it's a lot more affordable that way as well.
Yeah, of
You
course. Absolutely, of course.
yeah.
And it's so your talk at the conference is on regression. So
Yes.
what do you want to tell us a little bit about that talk?
Yes.
What are you
Um,
calling?
so the main thing about I suppose last year and the year before, like it keeps getting stronger and stronger, the conference. Like it's
Mm,
fantastic, all the speakers. And I remember sitting there last year and I figured I didn't hear many people talking about it. And it's like the main tool in my toolbox. And there's just so many different ways that we can help people,
mhm.
and some are quicker than other. And for me, I thought it's a very important part of my work and my colleagues. And I thought I'd love to talk about it for especially for those who are new to hypnotherapy that are coming along to the conference. They're thinking about studying it, or maybe they study psychology and they want to know. It's basically to share what can be achieved with
Right.
doing regression. That's basically why. Yeah.
And so what is it about regression that you actually like?
I will honestly say, now I won't go into all the details of
No,
what my ISE was.
no, because you need to
We'll
keep
just
some of
over
it for the
coffee,
talk,
just
obviously, so people
exactly.
can actually, yeah,
Exactly. But I do know for myself, just a simple incident where there was no harm done, nothing bad, but the perception of me as a 6 year old, quite a big event that happened, the way I perceived it, it actually programmed me to feel negative
right,
from there. So like lots of people will have, like most of my clients, the ISC I'll find under five most of the time, even four. But for me, it was six. And even though like it was a big event, but like I kept getting my colleague to regress me. It's like, okay, there's nothing earlier than that. Okay. So that's it then. We've got it. And it was like hitting the button or like starting chapter two in my life. The
right.
day that and we were in the training room, John. We were in the training room.
Yeah, it's
And
funny how actually when people go for hypnotherapy training, how much actual healing they receive themselves and
even if
reframing.
you even if you never became a hypnotist or opened a business, what
Correct.
you will get out of just
The amount
learning
of
that it
therapy you get.
works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So basically where that was desensitized, the feeling of maybe being rejected or not loved was desensitized, and then a couple of more events that happened. Um, yeah. Yeah, like there's another event, I'll tell you right every time. There's another event when I was 14. And some people will laugh at this, but if you're a dog lover, you will not. You might even weep, right? But I'm the biggest dog lover you'll find. I'm a red setter fan. And I've always had red setters. They've all been called grouse, and the next one probably will too. But when I was 14, I was in boarding school. And basically, my dog died. I didn't know till I came home, found out. It was shared with me, not in the most humane way, but,
Right.
or not in the most fun loving. I have an older brother who thought he was smart ass, like. So, anyway, he'll not be watching this, I hope. But anyway, it was shared not in the nicest way. But I went back to boarding school. So that was Friday night. I came home, found out my dog, since I was two, was gone. Like I can safely say he was my favorite person in the whole world, right? Gone. And I know he's not a person, technically. But then I go back to boarding school. I, John, I cried every night for a full year, right?
Yeah.
So that people will say that is not normal and be like, okay, I don't really care what people think. But I know it's because of the root cause where I learned that pain or grief, whether it's rejection or like obviously the dog didn't reject me, but there's just so much heavy negative feeling building up from 6 to 14. And when that
Hmm.
happened, I couldn't cope. And it
Yeah.
was just so
It needed
devastating.
a release to come out.
And then for someone who may not have experienced what I did, or if they didn't have any childhood traumas at all, and this happens, they deal with it. They and in a different way.
Yeah.
So it was when I saw the healing I got out of regression alone
Yeah.
in the training room, I thought, wow,
Yeah.
like what this can do. And I first of all wanted to work with teenagers, thinking they're the people I want to work with because that's when I was in my most pain. But actually, I've grown up in the recent years. You can still help teenagers, but I find sometimes with them, they have to want it. Well, they always have to want the
Hmm.
help. The problem with teenagers sometimes is they're brought to hypnotherapy because they were told,
Yeah.
you
And do you
know,
not remember it as a teenager? You knew everything. There was nothing else that you needed to know
like
from
none,
anybody.
and definitely not the nuns in boarding school.
Yeah. No,
They knew
absolutely.
something like,
Absolutely. Yep. No, I mean, regression is a fascinating tool, and it's a really useful tool. It's something I use. I mean, like I was saying to you beforehand, most of my stuff is content free, but when something's stuck, then I just go after it through a regression course. And I mean, sometimes I get blown away by the stuff that you see. Absolutely blown away. Just a very simple one was somebody came for a fear of spiders. They had literally emigrated from Australia within an hour of seeing a spider on the wall, bags packed, tickets bought, and they wanted to go back. The spider wasn't, it was big, but not dangerous. Um, and grandma panic attack at age 3 in the kitchen, and suddenly they're chasing spiders around the garden. It's like, and we don't think how significant a lot of these events actually are.
yeah, it's
But
mad.
it's the perception we give them, and regression is a wonderful tool to find them when people won't let them go otherwise.
Mm,
Um, so I
yeah,
look forward to your talk because I know they're like between say Carl Smith and Hans Rudy Wiff, there's all kinds of conversations between regression to cause and
I know it's great crack. You
and
just
free.
have to embrace it, because that's
Absolutely.
the thing about hypnotherapy. Like, there's not one hypnotist up there that okay, one might have lots of tools, but there's not just one way. Like, there's loads
No.
of ways, and as long as we're helping the client live a more positive future and get rid of the pain, whether someone believes in regression or not, it doesn't
Yeah,
bother me.
no, and
I know
ultimately,
it
you're right.
works. Yeah,
Every tool that we have is a permission slip for the client to let go. And different ones work for different people,
yeah,
and
definitely. Yeah,
different ones work for different therapists. It's pretty much that simple.
that's true.
At least in my head, you know.
But it's
So
great to have
yeah,
a conference though, because now we're all in the one room and we
correct.
all got to embrace it all and, support each other. And it's brilliant. Whereas before this, it can be quite a lonely profession, you know. So once like a big conference like this, and even actually with Irish Hypnotherapy as well, there's a number of client or clinics. And I find that very helpful when I started, like the community
Yes,
or the conference, it's brilliant. Like I wouldn't miss it.
yeah,
Um, it's really good.
no, that's great, and that is part of it because we've been so, I suppose, insular almost in the way that because there was conferences not all over Europe, but in a lot of places around Europe. Um, but most therapists didn't necessarily know, unless you were, say, part of a chain of clinics or whatever. Most people didn't even know that the hypnotherapist in the town nearest them, you know. So
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the ideas behind this, which is to connect people. But ultimately, it's all about making hypnotherapy a more go-to therapy because it's the quickest, fastest, most effective than any talk therapy.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Otherwise,
Um,
we wouldn't be doing it, would we?
no, absolutely, because like you said, whether it's aggression or whatever, but it goes to cause. It literally goes to what the cause of it is. So
Mm,
even imagine in a weight loss thing program, you have a battle between between the desire versus the desire not to have it versus the need or the emotional need for it, which with regression, you actually remove that emotional need. So the willpower battle's gone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Willpower is not going to help us very
Yeah.
much. No.
Rosie, thank you so much. I really look forward to your talk on the 5th and 6th of April.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm delated. Really looking forward to it now.
It's
Should be
going to be a
fun.
wonderful 2 days
Yeah.
with speakers from all over the world. I think actually there's 4 Canadians, seeing as you spent time in Toronto,
Ah, very good.
uh, 9 Americans or 8 Americans, something like
Okay,
that, and
brilliant.
Europeans and Brits. So it's kind of, and Irish. So it's really becoming a much larger um,
International. Yeah.
and internationally recognized one now as well. So,
Mm.
um, listen, thank you, and we will see you all in Dublin on the 5th and 6th of April. Really look forward to your talk.
All right. Thanks a million, John. See you
And to
then.
everyone else who's watching, wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful day, and we will see you all in the Clayton Hotel, Liffey Valley, on the 5th and 6th of April. All details on www.irishhypnotherapyconference.ie. Have an amazing day.